Again, the fashions was fabulous. If you was from out of town, you think you're gonna come and turn out the garage for fashion, you better think twice. Yeah.
So today is Monday, May 5th, 2025. Who are we speaking with?
Ralph Hopkins from Brooklyn, New York.
So I interrupted you. You were talking about you have lots of photos and you have photos of going around the fountain in Central Park after you come from the clubs. Tell us that story. Like what clubs, what night of the week was it go? What would you guys do around the fountain?
Right.
What time of day was it?
Okay. I'm going back. I'm going back to the middle '60s. It used to be a club called the. A lot of people don't remember this or don't know this unless you're my age or around my age. It's called the Planetarium. The Planetarium back then was all black, and it was the Planetarium. What we would call you was call them like it was the original garage. That kind of atmosphere. It was called the Planetarium. That's what it was. All the people, the fashion artists, everybody. No, but it was mainly gay, but it was mixed. But mainly gay,
Hold
and it
up.
was on
Tell,
sec. It
tell
was
us.
on.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead. I was gonna say, tell us where it was.
It was on Second Avenue, but I forgot between what streets. It was on Lower Second Avenue, and we would come out of there on Sunday around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody would go get something to eat, and then everybody would go directly to Central Park to the water fountain. That's what everybody used to go. You see artists, models, dancers, people coming from other clubs would go there, and you see all kind of fashion, fabulous clothes, and everything. Place would be packed, and that would go every Sunday back then. Yeah, I even have pictures, some pictures from there also, which I just posted on my Facebook page. Some of those photos.
Wow, you're giving us a history lesson here. So tell us about the planetarium. How big was the club? Who was the DJ? What would they play?
I don't remember the DJ's name. Who the DJ was? It wasn't No, Collins wasn't. He wasn't that known back then. I don't remember. I can't remember who that was. I don't think it was Larry. It might have been Larry starting. I mean Larry Levan from the garage. The planetarium. When you go in from the street, you had to go down. It was underground, and it was fairly big down there. It was fairly big. The DJ booth was like against the wall right in front of you, but it was painted around the DJ booth. It was a spaceship. So it looked like the DJ was playing music. He was inside of a spaceship. I guess why the club is called the planetarium. And hanging from the ceiling was neon like little whirls and zodiac signs and things. And when the black light turned on, everything would glow like you in space. It was fabulous. It was really fabulous. Like I said, it was the pre of the garage party. Now the garage party, jumping to up years closer now. I went to before the garage opened. They was down the street. The club was called Reed Street. It was inside of a meat packing company, and we were dancing inside the refrigerator. One of the refrigerators, they had sawdust on the floor. Larry Levan was above the door. You come in. When you come in, you turn around and look up. He was up there. That's where he started learning how to play on the turntables. A couple of times, we would be dancing, and Larry would nod out, go right down on the on the record, and it was and stop. And we was, wait, what you doing? Wake up! And anyway, they started having these parties there, calling it the construction parties of this new club they're going to call the Paradise Garage, which is down the street. So they say starting collecting money for that, and then we got enough money to start the first part of it, construction in the garage. As you go up the walkway, the plank, not the plank, is what you call that? You go up like a walkway up to
The ramp,
inside the
the
club.
ramp, the
The
ramp.
ramp, that's what I say, yeah. Um, you go in after you pay, and you go in. The first room that they built was called the Crystal Room. The Crystal Room, that was the first dance floor. That was a dance floor. We had moved from the up down the street to from Reed Street into the new Crystal Room as a dance floor. While you're dancing, you can see the men actually putting down the dance floor in the main dance floor of the garage. And it was fabulous. It was packed that little the Crystal Room. It was so hot in there, the sweat from the from the ceiling would drip down you almost like you in a shower. And then to make a little funny short, then we moved into the main dance floor, and the back was completed. And then they started to build on to the movie room. Where they had you want to watch a movie, and then the rooftop came later. During those times, a lot of celebrities started coming there. So Donnie Ross was there. Um, oh, who else? Oh, so many. Mick Jagger. I saw him coming from Larry's booth, coming down the steps. Oh, so many. First Choice, the group First Choice. They premiered they record. That album was premiered in the garage. I was right at the stage. Me and some of my friends. They premiered. It was a fabulous show. They had so many different artists was there. Madonna, she got one of her first breaks there. They had built a little small platform on the middle of the dance floor, and we were dancing. Then they stopped the music and said, "Okay, now we're going to introduce this new upcoming performer, Madonna." We was like, "Who is this little girl?" And we were standing right next to her on the little platform in the middle of the dance floor, and she had two backup dancers, a guy and a girl, black. And I don't remember what she was singing, but she started singing, and that was one of her starting places. It was so Grace Jones. She been there a few times doing her shows, fabulous shows with what's his name, the artist, um,
Keith Haring.
Keith Haring. Yes, he would paint her body, his artwork, and she would open her shows there. I remember me and my friends. We were always at the stage. We would wait at the stage for the show because once the show started, everybody runs towards the stage. So we made sure we were right there. One show Grace Jones did. They have two columns on each side of the stage, and Keith Haring painted the whole both of the columns with his designs. Okay, the music started playing, and you hear Grace Jones singing, but you didn't see her. So we thinking she's going to come from the side, from the back room, onto the stage. As she's singing, all of a sudden, Grace was wrapped around the pole, painted into the pole, right in front of us. Then she left the pole. Her body was painted to match the poles. Everybody started screaming and screaming and screaming. We couldn't believe she was right in front of us. It was fabulous. Shows like that, yeah. So,
Tell me about the first time you went to the garage. Who brought you there? How did you hear about it? What did you think about the space? What did you see? What did you hear? Describe the fashion and the dance.
okay, that's a good question. The first time I ever went there, I can't remember who I went with. It was my friends from Jersey. Because I'm from Newark, New Jersey originally. I was born in Newark. I stayed in Newark until junior high school. Then I got transferred to New York it was called Food and Maritime Trades High School. It was only school was all boys that majored in butchering, baking, and cooking. And I was a cook. And we got transferred over there. So I've been there. That was like in the '60s, 1965. Um, and I can remember one of my best friends in school and his friends uh, told us about the garage. The first time I remember walking there, this guy was at the door from the street who let you in. His name was Noel, and turned out to be he was a professional model for Marlboro cigarettes. He had his poster all over New York and everywhere. He was very, very nice. And let me back up again. Sorry. From Reed Street, we had once we moved over to the garage. Um, that's how it got started in. I'm sorry. Once we got into the garage, then the garage had it was called a construction party membership. That was the first one, which is a monkey wrench. They would give you a actual metal monkey wrench, miniature, which I still have. And that was my first time going into the garage back then. Once we got, inside, when they opened up the main dance floor, people started coming. You would see all kinds of fashion, things you have never seen before. Fabulous couture wear. And I must say, I was one of them. Because I can make some of my own clothes. I always loved fashion and dressing up. And I wore some really wild outfits, but nice. With the more couture outfits I wore. But you would see fabulous, fabulous clothes there. They once had one of their parties. It was called it was a party doing Halloween, and they had a contest for the best costume was a trip to Brazil. And I always wanted to go to Brazil. I wish I could go to Brazil. So I said, okay, I got to make something really, really kind of out there. So what I did, I designed and made this one outfit. It's a cape. If you can imagine, it's a floor length cape that's white with 1 dozen giant red bow of feathers going down all the way around me with a tall red spiked collar that shine like almost like glass, but red, with mirrors on the spikes. And from my head, it had looked like 3 silver balls floating over my head. On my face was a red sequin mask. Around my neck was chiffon, white chiffon. That's what you see. And I had holes in the cape. The cape was closed. Holes for my hands to come out. Both of my wrist was white chiffon. So it was a big surprise when I got there. I got there, I got dressed. A friend of mine had to help me put it on because the cape, once it's open, it opens to 12 feet wide. So the contest started, and I got up on the stage before anybody got up, just to test it out before the actual contest started. And the music was playing, and so I turned my back to the audience against the wall, and I opened my cape, both sides. Can you imagine that? When I open it, I look from the back, from outside. The back people look like almost like half of a spider, 12 feet wide. But you see mirrors from my collar, and it's shining in red. Then I close it, and then the contest started, and other people they said, "Okay, who's next?" So now I was next. So the music started. So I turned around, closed cape. When I turned to the audience, I mean the place was packed. The music started, and then I slowly, my arms came back inside the cape. I slide the cape open with my hands. When I open the cape to 12 feet wide, my body is painted stripes, white stripes against my black skin, and a red bikini that I have on that matches the mask and red sequins. My body is painted from my knees up around my chest, my stomach, from my knees down on both legs. Chiffon, 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 white chiffon. You just see white poof, white for chiffon. The people started screaming. and everything. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. With other designers had their nice outfits also. The winner, believe it or not, one of the contestants got up on the stage. This black guy got up on his, no joke, walked up on the stage with a bra and a pair of panties on. That's it, and a blonde wig, little curly wig. That's it. And they said, "Oh, that's the winner." Everybody said, "What?" And it was other content, these costumes. I mean, fabulous costumes too. The guy that won with his wig, he started laughing, and they gave him the envelope with the ticket. Supposedly, the ticket was in it. He started laughing and ran off the stage and ran with up to the booth. It was like you can see that was fixed. That was fixed. All those costumes, and they give it to this guy with a bra and panties. So there was some of the things at the garage, But again, the fashions was fabulous. You if you was from out of town, you think you're gonna come and turn out the garage for fashion, you better think twice. Yeah. So, but back then it was so many clubs to go to every night of the week. Yeah.
I do have another question on the garage. Give me a second. I have a lot of questions to ask you, but
Okay.
I'm just trying to find the right one.
I remember Lolita Holloway. She was singing there. Was there. Sylvester was there a couple of times. And once he finished singing, he would go right down on the dance floor and dance right next to us. Nobody bothered him. Nobody.
So I do have a question. So the garage was more than a party space. Um, it was a sanctuary for the Black, Latin, LGBT community in the
Yes.
70s and 80s. Talk about that.
Oh, I'm glad you asked about that. Okay, the garage was basically it was 90% black, and the rest is Spanish. It was you felt comfortable there, because you're on your own people. Um, Even though the owners, it was three owners that I remember. One was called Jaime, which I knew him. He was very, 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 very nice, and he was Jaime was Spanish, but he looked almost whitish. But very nice, and they all gay. The ones who owned the club was gay. It's a gay club. But since the crowd got so big and a lot of straights wanted to go to, so what they did, they separated the nights. They made Friday night was straight night. Saturday was gay night. They had more, we'll say better entertainment on Saturday for the gay kids. Girls who wanted to come on Saturday, they would have to show, like, I remember, like 2 or 3 IDs to get in. And they had to pay a little more, if I can remember. Not much, but it was more. Like it was like $10. They might have paid 15 if they wanted to go on Saturday. Um, it was different. It was one night on Saturday. I remember was there, and everybody, the music was playing. Everybody was dancing. It was fabulous, hot. All of a sudden, Larry stopped the music. Somebody had went up and told Larry that this some guy on the floor. Well, I guess it was his girlfriend. He said he didn't like. There's too many fats in the club. And they told Larry this. Larry stopped the music. He said, I just heard somebody, whoever you are, you don't like. Let me tell you, this is a gay club run by gays. If you don't like us, he said, get the out real loud. And everybody said, yeah, 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 yeah. I never knew who this guy was. They never pointed him out, but he let them know. Stop the music and let them know you don't like it. Get out. I remember that time. It was it was something. The garage had the best sound system in the country. It was specially made by this techno guy. I don't remember his name, a white guy, for the garage. These speakers were so powerful and crystal clear. You and me could be dancing, facing each other. We still can understand what you when you're talking to each other. That's how clear and powerful those speakers were. When you're coming in the club, coming up the ramp, to, before you get in, 'cause the walls was padded. They had all the walls was padded for the sound because it was so strong. It couldn't get out to the street. When you walked up the ramp inside, waiting to pay up to the booth, you hear the rumble. It sounds like thunder. You get goosebumps because you can't wait to get inside. You just couldn't wait to get in. Boom, 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 boom. Oh my God, you just couldn't wait to get inside. Just to see the people, the fashion, hear the music, you lose your mind. You would lose your mind. You get in, entranced in the music. You forgot about outside. It's like that. It was really, something to experience. No other club has that kind of experience. They didn't sell alcohol at all, but in the back room, the lounge room, that long table with on each end of the table, one they had big giant punch bowls. One was a regular punch. The other one on the right, that was punch, but it was spiked with acid. But somebody would tell you. But if you didn't know, God helped you. But most people knew, but a lot of people did not know. Now, the ones who did not know, and I've seen this on two different nights, two different weekends myself, while we were dancing on the floor, obviously this guy did not know, and he drank that punch. He took off all his clothes, butt naked, not a stitch of clothes on. Started swinging full force, bashing people in their face. He just went off. He lost his mind. He went off, swinging. I mean, full force, just hitting people in their face, and people backing up. This was going on in the back of the dance floor. The people in the front of the dance, we didn't even know because you dancing and the music loud. You don't look back to see because the place was so packed. But it happened next to me, Mr. Finn. We just backed up. Then the security they had to forcefully jump him to stop him. That was one night. Another night, the same thing happened to another guy. It was so funny. Took his clothes off too, butt naked, not even socks. And they started running around, swinging and stuff. It was, but that punch, you didn't know. It was like that, yeah. But it was always safe in there. Nobody, no, nobody bothered anybody. It was all for fun. No, other than no alcohol. You just it's a place to come to dance. No standing around on the dance floor, looking at anything or talking. No. You go into the other room, you want to go talk. It's straight dancing. It was fabulous. Really nice.
Talk to me about friendships. Did you make any friendships at the Paradise Garage?
Oh yeah. Um, I met a lot of different people, from out of town, from Jersey, from Washington D.C. They will come from, and we kept in touch years after that. And you see old friends you haven't seen in a long time, or schoolmates that you didn't know was gay was up in there, things like that. Yeah, it was something. You see a lot of. It was funny. You see a lot of so-called straight guys or straight girls in there, and they be dancing more feminine than some of the gays. It was something. Yeah, I'm surprised you wasn't around, huh? You wasn't around then.
No,
No.
I never made
Yeah.
it to the garage.
Yeah.
Talk to
You-
talk to me about after the garage. So you dance all night. it's noon the next day. Do you guys go out and have pancakes? Like, talk to me about after the.
Yeah, we always would go down the street. It was in the meatpacking business section again area. It was a all 24-hour diner, which a friend took me to. Which I never knew it was there. Um, to go in the diner from the street, you know when you go those meatpacking places in the refrigerator, the giant refrigerator doors had those big strips of plastic that you got to go through the plastic to keep the cold in. That's how you go inside this diner. It was like that. It was a long diner place inside, and all the people would be there at the counter or the booths on the side. It was real fun. You see all the outfits again that you didn't see before from the kids, white kids, and everybody would go there also from their clubs and see their outfits and stuff. Um, I just remember something else I forgot to tell you about the garage. Not to go back there, but one day I was I was in the line to go into the garage. That's when the garage decided they want to try to let a lot of the white kids come in, and we heard about it. Meaning the blacks. We heard about these white kids. They wanted to try to come in. They started. They came in one Saturday. They tried it one weekend. So I said to myself, I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna see how this going to work out because they was getting a lot of complaints from the kids, the black kids. So I went that one weekend. It was all whites lined up from the street to go into the garage. I was in the line with all the white guys. I was by myself. As to go in the garage from the street, you go into one door. Then you inside of the garage, facing to go another line that goes up to the ramp. So while I'm inside the first door, I never forget clearly the third white guy or the third and fourth white guy in front of me. He was talking to his friends, and I could hear everything he was saying. He turned around to one of his friends and said, "You see," I remember this clearly. He said, "You see, it's no here in this club." And my eyes got big. I said, "No, he didn't say that." And his friends, the two friends that were in front of me, they knew I was behind them. And one kind of half looked back to me, but he was like a afraid look on his face. But I didn't say nothing. But I just couldn't believe what I just heard. I should have reported them. Now I think about it. Back then, I should have reported to Jaime about that. But yeah, that racism was there, but it didn't last. The complaints they got complaints on top of complaints from everybody, the blacks, to the garage. So they stopped it. They stopped it immediately because that was not going to work. It was our money that started this club. And all of a sudden, you want to change everything. No, it isn't. It wasn't right. We didn't care if they come, mix, but not to try to make it all white. You know what I mean? So that's what happened back then. But yes, we would go to these restaurants after the garage, just to see the more fashion, and it was fun. And then make it back home if you can make it without falling asleep. One time, uh, we had left the restaurant, and I was still living in Newark, so we would go to Penn Station. You got me thinking now. I forget about these things. Me and my friends, it was three of us or four of us. We went to Penn Station because the path wasn't running. So we went to 34th Street to the Penn Station. There was nobody in Penn Station. It must have been about 5 in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning. And we had bought our tickets, waiting for the train to go to Newark. And we're sitting there and we was half trying to stay awake. My friend started to fall asleep on the bench. inside, the station. I was still awake. All of a sudden, I started hearing click, 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 click. The sound of this lady's high heels walking towards towards our where we were sitting. I turned around and looked over my eyes. It was Patty LaBelle by herself with a full length mink on, waiting for her train to go back. I think to Philly, where she lived. I think she lives in Philly. To wait, she was waiting for the train also. The bench behind us, the next bench behind our bench, was a homeless man laying there asleep. This white cop came up and started hitting him with his stick thing to wake him and said, you gotta move. And Patty said, don't hit him like that. She spoke up. Patty said, don't hit him like this. You don't have to hit the man like that. And I remember that I was wide awake. And I punched my friend. I said, look who it is. I said, look, 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 look. It was Patty LaBelle. And she spoke up for that black guy, the homeless guy. And I never forget that. Yeah, she was by herself, no security, nothing, with a mink coat on, waiting for her train. Yeah, I remember.
Wow. What stories? What stories?
Yeah.
Would the Paradise Garage work today?
Would it work? Oh, please. If it was up to today, if they could rebuild it or the same, it would be a mob scene. It would be a mob. The line would go for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks again. You would definitely have to have a strict membership. It's no club built like that, made like that. That kind of that kind of entertainment. Grace Jones, Stephanie Mills. Oh, some of these other artists. Sylvester. Everybody come in. Cher was in there. I remember Cher came in there. Other artists was a lot. Everybody. The only thing for a club that had a lot of stars was Studio 54, which I've been there once, and that was an experience in there. But yeah, it was never been another garage. If you want one today, forget it.
Tell us a story about Studio 54.
It wasn't. I didn't have much for that because I went. Like I said, I got in. I had no problem getting in. Which I guess I'm lucky. I had never had problem going to any club. I guess the way I dress, because I would wear very couture outfits, kind of you would say one of a kind outfits. Um, I remember walking in, and to this day I can't remember who was with me, but I went in. We went in, and soon we walked in. It was the first celebrity we saw. I can't think of his name. The white guy. He was a photographer with the spike hair. They looked like he looked uh kind of hard face with glasses, round glasses. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. He was the first one that he was taking pictures of other celebrities. And I remember the dance floor, that was the stage area. And it had these giant, long lights. As you danced, the little lights would come from the ceiling all the way down to the floor, right next to you. It was fabulous. And the lights would flicker around. You see celebrities and models right next to me dancing. I'm sorry. I wish I was there when Donnie Ross was there, but I wasn't there that night. Or Grace Jones, but I've seen Grace from a few times at the garage. But you would see all kind of celebrity people there, and the crowd outside just trying to get in. It was hilarious. They were basically begging Steve. His name was Steve Bell. That was one of the owners. Steve was at the door a lot of times with his security, and he would pick you or you. Okay, you come here. You. Some people would almost start crying that he wouldn't pick them. Or you will come to your friends. He would pick one person at it with your friends, and the rest couldn't go in. It was something else. You see it on the friends' faces. They couldn't go in, but their friend got in. It was something else. Yeah, New York back then it was hot. Like I say, it's a club to go to every night. I used to go out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, almost every week. I don't know how I did it, but it was so many clubs back then. Another one called the Tamerlane. It was one called the Tamerlane, another one called the Tamerlane. The Tambourine, I'm sorry, Tambourine and Tamerlane. The Tambourine, I used to basically go to that one. It was on the east side. And that was it was very, the kids that go there, we was into fashion. It was a small club, and that was from the street, you could go down underground also. But it was beautiful little club. They had a little balcony in there. And when you dance and the party's going on, they would throw these balloons, hundreds of balloons off the balcony. And in the balloons was money, $10 bills or $20 bills on some of them. And it was fun. You pop the balloons and see if it was a lot of fun back then. Yeah.
Tell us a story about Better Days with T. Scott.
Better Days. Yes, Better Days is on 49th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue. That was another legendary spot. Was T. Scott he's a legendary DJ, fabulous, fabulous, more fabulous back then than Larry Levan was. At least before Larry. It was all black. It was 99% all male. The music was fabulous. It was a round, circular club. People didn't know that club, Better Days, that was the back dance floor of a hotel. We didn't know that around the block, it was a hotel. And they had, I guess, blocked it off between the hotel and 49th Street, so made it separate. But it was a hot place. And that was only club today, they don't even do this. Excuse me. While you dancing, house music, he will stop the music. Excuse me. He will stop the music and then play slow music. And everybody was, you get a partner and start grinding each other. It was something else. So you see somebody that you like, you go up to them and say, you like to dance? And they'll say, yeah. Excuse me. They would lower the music, lower the um, the lights down almost dark and play like 2 or 3 slow songs. And the funny thing, once the songs finished, and then the lights came back up, everybody who was standing on the side who didn't dance on it, they were trying to look and see who had a hard on and stuff like that, from dancing with their partners. It was something else. No other club did that. And it made it more so you would meet somebody, you meet your boyfriend or whatever, or friend that way. It was something else. Yeah.
What role did fashion play in going out during that era?
It played a very big part. Like I said, the club I was just telling you about called the Tamarine. The the gay kids and some of the straight kids, it was all fashion. It was one transsexual. Her name was, she goes by the name Putasa. She used to go to the club. Putasa would come to the club. You would not believe the outfit she was wear. She was tall, to like 6'2" or 6'1", slim, but the outfit she would come there with was things you would see in Bergdorf Goodman or Saks Fifth Avenue. We was always saying, where do you get these things from? How do you get these clothes? They cost a lot of money. With hats on and things. It cost thousands of dollars, these outfits. The rumor was she had It was two rumors that she had a rich sugar daddy, some old white guy, would buy these clothes for her. The other rumor was her, because she had a little group, her little groupies of gays always with her, surrounding her. The groupies would go out. And they would go. It was called mopping. They would go on. They would go on Madison Avenue above Bloomingdale's area and the little boutiques and things, and run in and snatch clothes out. They called it mopping, and that's how she got a lot of those clothes. So they say that was the rumor. Or the sugar daddy. One weekend, she came up there to the club with her little groupies, her friends. She's Latin, she's Spanish. She's real pretty, fabulous, lean body, like a model. She looked like a model. She bought a Vogue magazine. She's in the magazine. I saw it myself. She was the real deal. She wanted her friends the magazine, and I saw the magazine. She was as a model, fabulous. Her name is. She goes by Putasa. I don't know if you can look it up. You might can look up, Google her. But yeah, you see fashions, things like that. I wore a lot of different outfits. I came there once with a chain vest, which I still have, that was made on me by this couple at this one of my jobs. I worked in the village at a steakhouse, a small steakhouse on McDougal Street, and this straight couple, they were the owners that hired me as a cook. And one day in the afternoon, I saw the wife making these metal loop chains, and she was making some kind of something out of them. I said, "Oh, what is that?" And she said, "Oh, me and my husband, we have a little side business. We make vests or belts out of chains." I said, "Oh," I said, could you make me a vest?" She said, "Yeah, sure." So the next day I got to work, and she said, "Sit on the stool." I sat on the stool. Her and her husband started. They had like a plier things in their hand. They started making this vest actually on me, all chains, and I just fell in love with it. And I said, "This is really different." And I used to wear that with a pair of I don't know if you know what gauchos are. You know what gauchos are? I had made a pair of gauchos. Basically, what I did, I had a vintage pair of navy men's navy pants. They had the buttons that go across your stomach and down the side. I had a pair of those. What I did, I cut them from the knees down, so off, because I bought a pair of deerskin boots that came up to my knee, right at the top of the shorts. And on top of that, I can't remember, I had a black, yeah, I had a black, yeah, I had a black turtleneck on, long sleeve. And I put the chain vest on. But what I did, I had another black little vest will go over that, and I'll close it. So when I get to the clubs, I'm dancing on the floor. They think they just see that black vest in the black, gauchos, the fur boots. Then doing dancing, I would unbutton the black vest and take the black vest off, and they would see the chain vest, and the kids would lose it. They would just lose it. It was a lot of fun. I wear things like that, and I made a fur out of a reel, which I still have also, a baby sheep. It was copper colored baby sheep that I found in a record store that was selling these furs in their showcase. I said, "What is it for?" He said, "Those we selling the skins." So I took it home and I cut a hole in the middle of it. I measured and cut a hole in the middle of it for my neck, and where his head was, that's at my stomach. His tail was in my back. His right leg and and right back leg, I would hook two together on both sides so it looked like a vest. And I would wear that with the gauchos and the fur boots also. Things like that. I would make things like that. So you will see, fashion was very uh, out there then. You will see outfits, fabulous outfits the kids will come to the club with that you don't see now. Nothing.
So how did you balance having a day job and then going, being out until 4 in the morning? Like, what,
That's
what day job did you have that allowed you to be out until 4 in the morning on the regular?
I don't know. That's like I say I don't know how I did it.
How
Uh,
did you do it? And what was your job before you retired?
I'm a cook. I'm a cook. Yeah, I always been cooking for. That was my money job basically. But I love fashion. I was into. I know. I always say cooking was my main job. No, for money. But I always like fashion. I should be more into fashion than I was into a cook. After work, I would go home and get dressed. I did have my days off. But back then, I was working where I was working in. I think I was working at it was called Schraff's restaurant. I don't know if you heard of that. It's a German-owned restaurant. After work, I would go home, my rest. Go out to the clubs during the week. I would get to clubs like 10, 11 o'clock, and I would stay till 3, sometimes 4 o'clock. Go back home, get a couple hours sleep, and go get up and go to work. I don't know how I did it, but I did it back then. Uh, in my days off, I would go on my days off so I had more time to sleep. You know, back then. Again, I don't know how I did it, but really, I went out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, sometimes Tuesday. Because certain clubs back then they would have certain parties on Wednesday or Thursday. Um, that was more like a gay night, but that's when you meet all the hip people was on the so-called gay nights. These clubs would have. It was a club called Bentley's, and that was in the area of Grand Central, maybe 39th Street in Park Avenue, somewhere around that area. I remember that. It was called Bentley's. Uh, that was basically a straight club, but if I can remember, like on Thursdays, um, they would have these special parties upstairs on the second floor by Susan Bosch. You ever heard of Susan Bosch? Everybody goes to her clubs, her parties. Her parties were always during the week. Susan Bosch used to have her special parties there on Wednesday. We go in there, you go upstairs to the second floor. Everybody, people up there dancing and stuff. And then at 11 or 12 o'clock, she would have a special little show. The shows she would give, for instance, this black lady would come up, this little floor platform, and we're surrounding the little platform, and her name was Lady Hennessy. She was like 6'1". She had a bikini on, little bra thing. She started dancing. Fabulous dancer. She would take her bra off. She would take both her hands and squeeze her and squeeze milk all over you like a water gun, all over you. You know how she did it, but she would do things like that. Um, she would lay down on the floor, take off her bikini, and she had a little open her legs, and she told the white boy from the audience, "Come in," and she said, "Grab that little ribbon that was hanging out of her." She said, "Okay, start backing up with it." He started backing up. It was a ribbon about another ribbon, a ribbon, a good, I don't know, 2 feet long coming out of her. Everybody would start screaming. This kind of show she would have. After her show, a white boy got up on there. He just had a little bathing suit on, like a bikini. He started dancing around. All of a sudden, he picks up this cup. He takes out his and pee in the cup right in front of you, and then drink it. This is the kind of party Susan Bosch would have. That was her shows. She had these freaks.
Her Halloween parties were always incredible.
I never went to another Halloween parties. I don't know how I missed that. And I
Hmm.
love the costumes.
Yeah, yeah, it was wild. Um, let's talk about your book.
Oh, oh, you got it.
Talk
Thank
about your
you.
book. The book is called "They Call Me the Mayor of Riis Beach."
Yes.
Tell us about the book.
Oh, okay. Well, the book, how it started back in around the 1993, actually, up till 2000. I've been going to Reese Beach since 1965. From high school, I was going to start going to Reese. A friend of mine took me out there, and I just fell in love with the people, the beach, the atmosphere. It was a giant gay section, and it was 99% black and Spanish. The gay section. I met a lot of friends there. A lot of my friends was coming there. So one day, one hot day, summer, um, we were sitting around with my friend, we were just talking and stuff. And I said, and it was in August, almost the end of the summer. And I said, I'd like to give a party. We should have a party and have it in August, the end of the summer, when everybody got their deepest tans, and that would be nice. Everybody bring a full dish, and I got a boom box, and they got somebody else got a music. Somebody said, "Oh yeah, that'd be a good idea. Let's do that." I said, "Yeah," and then we can all come in white. So it's okay. So that following week, I said, "Okay, so we're gonna have a party," and I mentioned it. Let me get some kind of decorations to surround our little area. So I went over to this wholesale place area where you can get these. It's all kind of novelty stuff. That's where you see these African guys selling these um, purses and things like that, keychains, all that stuff. And this is where they get that stuff at. It's down the street from Macy's department store area. So I found that place in that area, and I went over there and I found some hula hoops. I bought some hula. I bought 1 dozen hula hoops, and I got some balloons, some white balloons that I had to rent the whole balloon um, machine to blow it up. I rented some white balloons. I brought the balloons and the hula hoops, and what I did, I put the hula hoops halfway into the sand in a circle, a large circle. Hula hoops with neon colors, and I would tie a ribbon on one each hula hoop to a white balloon that floated in the air in the circle. So that was our circle. And so I said everybody had to bring a food dish. So I had to get some tables. So I got some tables. I got 3 tables. And a friend of mine who named Lonnie Cisco, he's a fashion designer. He lives in Jersey City. He helped me and donated and made a canopy to go over the food table. Okay, so that's how it first got started with that party. My friends had a good time. They said they had such a good time. They said, Ralph, you got to do this again. We got to have this another one. Let's do it another one. I said, oh, okay. So I think a week or two went by, and I said, okay, we're gonna have another one. Another one to have the white again. Not realizing other people around on the beach, they started liking it and wanted to participate. And then they started coming closer and they wanted to be, and they were all friends with my friends, and the crowd started getting bigger. So I had to up my game for decorations and things like that. So one friend told me, Ralph, your party's getting kind of, getting bigger. One of my Spanish friend, name was Ricky. He was the designer also. He said, "Won't you have a fashion show?" I said, "Oh, that's a good idea." I said, "Okay, let's." He said, "I'll help you. I need to bring some of his models and things, and we'll have a fashion show." I said, "Okay." So everything was falling into place magically. Another friend of mine, he said, "Oh, Ralph, I can help you if you need some decorations and all," because he worked in this giant warehouse on the west side, Lower Manhattan. He said, "Here's my address." He said, "Come there on Saturday around 10, 11 o'clock at night," because he works alone there, like security. I said, "Okay." And I had my car then. So I went over there one night, and I remember it was a cobblestone street area. This giant brick building, very quiet. So I put out, that was the address. I rang the bell, went in there, went up to I think it was the third floor. He opened this big door. This place was huge, big giant warehouse inside. All kinds of things from all different stores in New York, things that they donated that they didn't need anymore, was in there. I felt like Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, I found treasure in this giant cave. I mean, things lamps, tables, everything, fabric, all kind of knickknacks, posters. It was posters, which I'm sorry I didn't take it. I should have took them. From Paris is Burning. Remember that? Those posters was in there. I could have took a couple of them. I didn't take it. I don't know why I didn't take it. So I found my runway, this big I called it mylar. It was all silver. It looked like you're walking on water. I said, "This would be a nice, perfect for a runway." So he said, "Take whatever you want, but this stuff is donated, to the I don't know, the government. I don't know who they donate to, but from different stores." So I had a shopping cart in there, so I went all through the place. I got the runway had bolts of fabric. I got silk, bolts of silk, Egyptian cotton, and I would give those bolts. I told my friend in Jersey City, I said, "Cisco, I have this bolt." I said, "Just make me this cape or that cape from that bolt, this fabric, and you can keep the rest of the whole boat. I don't care. Just make me a pants and that's how I got some of my outfits to open the show on my beach parties. The beach parties the crowd started getting bigger from the from my third party, and then they said, "Okay, since we're gonna have a fashion show, I have to get a permit." I spoke to one of the police and said, "So you gotta have a permit if you're gonna have music, speakers, a DJ, you have to have a permit." So I went over to the main office on base there, next to the beach, and I met the guy who gets out the permit. And it turned out to be he was gay, a white guy. And he's hi Ralph, and we became good friends. And no problem. I said, "I need a permit," and the permit at that time was only $50. I said, "I'm having a party, blank such and such on such and such day." It was always the third Sunday in August. My party was always the third Sunday in August. And he said, "Okay, what's the name of you have to have a name to put down on the permit of your club, whatever, your company." I said, "I don't know, this Ralph's Beach Party or Ralph," And he said, "Okay." And they wrote down, and that's how I would get my permits. And so that first party, before they started, a friend of mine that came to the party, he said, "Ralph, somebody put your party advertisement on the internet." I said, "What?" I said, "Oh my God, everybody gonna start coming." And then I'm doing this all by myself, So I got to really, much as I can, and I was still, I'm working too, my job. I had to up my decorations. So I said, "What can I do? What do?" So I said, "Okay, I need something really stand out to let everybody know on the beach that my party's over here. So I went to the lumber shop. I'm in the lumber yard by me, and I got these 15-foot, 10-foot poles. And then I went to the fabric place and got it was only $1 a yard. It was a lining material. It was only a dollar a yard, and that was the white party was the first to use fabric. And I got this fabric, enough fabric to go from the top of the 10-foot poles. It goes all the way down to into the sand. But it was lightweight, so when the wind blows, they would blow in the wind from 10 foot up down to the sand. So I would surround the whole area with these 10-foot poles in the sand with this white fabric coming, flowing in the wind. And on the top of each pole, which I got from that warehouse, I found what I was lucky to again. They had this ribbon. It's hard to describe. It's like a 1 foot long, wide ribbon, but it was perforated. It was like almost it was shot, but it shines like diamonds in the sun, like actual diamonds in the sun. I would make like giant ribbons and put on top of each pole, and they had silver ribbons, and I had red ribbons, and I had blue ribbons. And since it was the white part, I put the silver ribbons on top of the white poles with the fabric. So you could those ribbons would the bows was on top, and the long ribbon would flow down into the sand from the top also. So when the sun hit it, it would sparkle, and you can see it across the whole beach, at least a mile away, because you see diamonds sparkling. I remember a white lady walked up to me when I just finished put up all the decorations with the tents. The tents are covered with ribbons, sequin ribbons, and flowers. The white lady walked up to me. I never forget. An old white lady. She said, "Excuse me." She was standing by the water. She said, "Who? What is it? Is this a wedding?" And I said, "No." She said, "Oh, it's so." She said, "It was so pretty. It looks like a wedding, a white wedding." I said, "Oh." I said, "No, thank you." I said, "No, it's a beach party, a dance party." She said, "Oh, thank you." I never forget that. I said, you know, it looked so pretty. It really did. And so the party started like that. And then I had another party after year. The next year was, I think it was a red party. It was called I forget what to call it. Red Hot at Reese, I think I called it. Everybody had to come in Reese. It was always a theme, a color theme. Everybody had to come in red, which they did. They came from Washington. People thought that my birthday, so on the flyers I put there, yes, it's my birthday party. But it was in August, but my actual birthday is Memorial Day, May 30. But nobody can say you can have your a party a month later or 2 months later, 3 months later. So I would have my party in August. But people thought it was my actual party, so they would bring me gifts. It was so funny. They would bring me gifts. And I said, okay, thank you. From people I didn't even know, they would come from Washington, D.C. and Jersey. And I was really taken by it. I said, wow, thank you. And so that's how it got started. And then the next party was the blue party. And then I would have the fashion shows. My friends would donate their model friends, or students from FIT. I'll have any of my friends that want to be in it, which they did. I say, just show up, go into the tent, and the designer will put you in an outfit, and you go walk the runway. It's all for fun for everybody to participate. It wasn't exactly for gays. It's for everybody on Reese to come have fun. Just be yourself, have fun. You can say, "Oh, I walked in a fashion show in my life," and to see fashion that you never seen before. So that's how I got started. So out of nowhere, about 3 years ago, I get a phone call from this girl named Jillian Rappaport. And she found me through somebody else. She heard about my beach parties. And she's a writer and she's a teacher. And she said she would like to interview me about my beach parties and how I got started and everything like that. And I said, okay. And we made she came over to my apartment and we went around the corner to a restaurant to have lunch, but that's when she interviewed me at the restaurant, and that's how we got started. And she's got me started with the book was because of her, Jillian. And we felt it took us 3 years. Since I had all the pictures, like I told you, I have a lot of photos. I have pictures from the '60s. I have pictures from all the my beach parties. But the sad thing, which is hurt me to this day, I had all my beach parties filmed with my camera, my video camera, on my tripod. All my shows was filmed. Through the years ago, they got my camera got stolen. All my it would have made, believe me, those films I had would made a documentary. And I didn't know at the time when I met Jillian, I didn't realize it I know it got stolen because my camera was up in my closet. In the camera case, the leather case, was all the tapes with the camera. And I didn't realize it at the time because I have a separate bag of tapes from other things like Puerto Rico or um, different places I traveled through. And I thought they was in there, but I didn't realize at the time when I was talking with Jillian, I said, also, I have video of all my shows. She said, yeah, we can make a documentary. It could be shown in the independent films. Because I had a lot of, oh my God, a lot of tapes, all my shows that I opened. I opened shows. One show I opened, I called it Goldfinger. I was all in gold. My body is all in gold bikini. My friend Cisco, the designer, made me this beautiful gold cape coat. I have all my outfits, my gold case coat, and I would open the music was Goldfinger, from Goldfinger the movie, and I for my friends, they was in the show with me, like 6 of them, and I would dress them in a netting with gold all around them. There was a whole thing. Oh, when I talk about it, I get frustrated. Another show I had, it was called Circus by the Sea, a circus theme. My other friend Everett Clark, a designer, my main designer, he made me this huge ringmaster red coat, and he made the ringmaster hat. And my other friends, I dressed up them. They were like, one was a tiger, one was a leopard. They were the animals. And for some strange reason, I was packing my apartment onto the trucks to go to the beach to set up. I forgot the runway in my apartment. When I got to the beach and was setting up to put the poles up and had put the tents up, and I went to look for the runway. Then it dawned on me, I left it right in my apartment. I thought I would have a heart attack. I said, "Oh my God, what do I do? I don't have the runway." And the strange thing happened. So some reason when the people started coming, it was over. I'm not joking you. Over 300 people was there. They automatically made a giant circle. Nobody asked. It was just a giant circle, which turned out to be perfect. From the tents where I came out, I had this huge circles. I needed this huge circuit space anyway because I had a bull whip. I'm really good with a bull whip, like a ringmaster, and I used that bull whip during an open show. I'm really good. I whipped the whip, and people were surprised that I knew how to do a bull whip. And then during the show, I take off the coat, I go back in the tent, I come back out with the theme playing from Yoko Ono, Thin Ice. I don't know if you know that song. My friends would come out from the tent first with these big blocks, that were like giant blocks of ice, which was these crates I got from the supermarket. Those crates they put in the supermarket. I got I think three, four, five, 6 of those, and I had them go out first. I covered them with aluminum foil, make them like ice blocks of ice, and they would build up like a pyramid in the middle of the circle, and then the music would start. Then I come out covered in this blue turquoise satin with a train coat wrapped around with what I had on, with a blue fur hat on. I have a blue fur hat, and I kind of danced towards the giant blocks of ice. Then I start climbing on top. I get to the top of the ice, the top of the ice. You have the long train behind me now, down to the sand. Then as the music playing, I dun 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 dun. Then I dip down. I take off the hat, throw it to my friend, the fur hat. I open my coat, my blue aqua coat. I dip down, throw the coat over me, so you don't see me. I'm underneath the coat. Then, as the music playing, I stand up slowly. Then I throw the coat off of me. My whole body, I'm a block of ice. I'm in a body, a silver bodysuit, head to toe. Then I come down and I dance around the thing, and my friends danced around me, and everybody started screaming. And everything. I had all this on tape that got stolen. Oh my god!
What, somebody broke
So
into your house?
yeah, look, stupid me left with one friend of mine in the house. I went out
Oh,
and I came back and looked in my closet. It had to be kind of barred open. He had stole the camera.
damn. Damn, that's unfortunate. Um, does the party still happen now, or you stopped?
Well, this had one with Jillian and her good friend. I can't think of her name. It didn't come to me. I can't think of her name. Who they sponsored me 2 years ago because I told them I couldn't do it. I can't do it now. I couldn't afford it now. So I was looking at she sponsored me. Um, my first party 2 years ago for the first time, and that was a red party, and it was turned out. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was a red party, and people heard about it. I put out flyers and I posted on Facebook. And but again, they have new people at the office at the beach that I don't know. And there was a lady, and she gives it the permits, and she wouldn't give us the permit until September. I said September. The beach is the closed, and the beach is closed. Summer's over. Oh my God, September. I said the weather changes then. That's the only time she gave it to me. I think it was September 22nd. So Jillian said, "Well, let's try it. You never know." I said, "Okay." To make a long story short, September came around 22nd. Luckily, that day was hot and sunny. I didn't have that main crowd like I would normally do on the regular beach, during the summer in August. A lot of people stopped going to the beach because they figured the beach, it was over. But I had a nice big crowd. People still came out to the beach. And then the following year, we didn't have it. Then I said, okay, we have one more, which was just past September. I'm sorry, you missed it. It was, and then that was the neon party. I called it neon, was I used to give back then, and everybody come in neon colors, and I had a pretty nice crowd, but not as big as normally. And that was, she had pushed it back for the appointment September 22nd. I mean 24th. I said, oh my God. I was a nervous wreck, months before, thinking about the weather and hopefully that somebody would show up because people put their things away, after the beach closed, the last of August, Labor Day. So anyway, but luckily it was a sunny day also, and had a nice crowd, but not as many people as normally.
So
But
basically, everything changed, and so
yeah.
you stopped doing it a while ago. Why'd you stop doing it?
Oh, from back then, the original. Okay, good question. The reason is that I stopped. I didn't want to stop. What happened was when I started to have my parties there, and people started coming. It was a group called the Black Pride guys. I knew one or two of them. I knew of them. I didn't hang enough with them. but it was like 4 or 5 of them, and they pulled their money together, and they decided they're gonna have a party on the beach at Reese. And they pulled their stuff, they pulled their money together, and they had a dance. They had a giant tent out there, the dance floor with a dance floor. Um, they had one. They had two of them. One year they had Lolita Holloway. They booked her. She came out there. But the thing, they had a huge crowd. Everybody came out there. It was packed along the beach. Packed, packed, packed. But the thing was, after their parties, one of their parties, they would leave a lot of garbage out there on the beach. And plus, they had a fight. They had some girls. I think it was some girls had a fight. They had a fist fight in their parties. Made it look real bad. You know, and when they leave, they left all that garbage on the beach. So the beach people hired a cleanup company to come out and they cleaned up that garbage. So they called the Black Pride guys and told them, "Here's the bill for your garbage that you have to pay." They told the people, "No, what bill? We're not paying no bill, no phone garbage." They said, "Oh no, you're not going to pay? Okay, no more parties for nobody on the beach anymore. No more permits." So they messed me up. I had nothing to do with them. I didn't know nothing. So that's why my party stopped. They stopped giving out the permit. Made me, maybe I don't know. Made me look bad. I don't know them. So until now, until you all these years later, and through the years, every year on the beach, 'cause I go to the beach all the time. Friends will say, "Ralph, when you have another party, you should have another one. We had such a good time. It was nothing like that. It was so much fun. I met my boyfriends there, my girlfriends there. I met people I haven't seen in years. I would get all these different stories every year. Up till now, people would ask me, when you have another party? But they saw my last two parties because I posted them on Facebook. But through the years, somebody always asked me, "Why don't you have another party? It was so nice. There's nothing like that on at Riis Beach." I said, "I know." I said, "What does it mean? I would have to tell them the story I just told you about the Black Pride people." That's what made me stop. But since Jillian came around and everything started to come back together slowly, and then when we got the book finally came out, since I have all these photos, which I have more photos that's not in the book, um, we got this book going on. We found out, published and everything. It took us 3 years to finally find somebody to to do it, but it finally got out. So I'm still pinching myself that it's happening.
Oh, that's
you know,
incredible. That's incredible.
yeah. But as far as I know, I'm the only one that ever had a fashion show beach party on Riis Beach. Nobody had never had that before. Done those kind of parties. So people started calling me out when I go through the crowds on the beach. They know me from my beach parties. And other people, friends, they say, "Oh, that's the mayor of Riis Beach." So that stuck in my head, and I said, "That'll be the nice title for the book." They called me the mayor of Riis Beach. So that's how that came about with the book. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So tell everyone the book is out now. It's called They Call Me the Mayor of Riis Beach.
Yes.
Ralph Hopkins with Jilly Rappaport. Ralph
Yes.
parties from 1994 to 2000, and it's available at your favorite bookstore. So make
Yeah.
sure everyone gets it right now.
And online.
And online as well. You can buy it online as well.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ralph. I appreciate your time today and talking about your journey in the book. And
I'm so glad to happy to finally meet you and see you
exactly,
in person.
exactly. Great to connect. So thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you very
All right.
much.
You have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good night.